Let me do a short introduction. Barbara is very kindly showing you some swatches, and her project is completely groundbreaking, like to a point where no one in the industry has actually done it before, and a student has done it. So we're so excited to have Barbara join us, and she came all the way from the Netherlands to do this presentation for you. She was even saying to me personally, okay, I don't think it's sustainable me flying over to do this. That's how conscious she is. So I kind of twisted her arm to do it. So your presentation is quite easy. It's on my computer.
Yeah.
Perfect. So take it away. You've got about 15-20 minutes, and we'll see how you
20,
go.
25
Something like 25 minutes, 30 minutes. Yeah. So Barbara will do an intro and explain about her project. Do ask questions. It's quite groundbreaking what she's doing.
Okay. Before I start, the samples I will go into later, so please lay them down for just a few more minutes, then we go into that deeply. So my name is Barbara. I'm from the Netherlands. I recently graduated from the master, what's called integrated product design. So I'm not a fashion designer, but I'm a product designer. But my passion is with fashion and garment making. And so for my graduation project, I merged the two into this project. So maybe you know Holly McQuillan. She was my supervisor. She is very much into zero waste and also came up with this method of 3D weaving, which my project is about. I was externally advised by Mohsin, and my prototypes were developed in collaboration with Diamond Denim, which is a very supportive mill in Pakistan, who I also had the pleasure of visiting. So before I start going into the product that I made, I want to have you think about the denim garments that you know of and how they look like. So for example, my kind of jeans and some of the jeans you're also wearing. Please have a look at each other if someone is wearing denim. And you see that these denim garments all look very uniform and they're produced the same way. And then I want you to have a look at the samples that I provided here and the jacket that I'm wearing and how these differ from the denim garments that you maybe know. So this is my presentation setup. I will go into what is a denim jacket, what's the polluting side of that industry. Then I will introduce you into 3D weaving. I will show you my prototyping steps in leading to my concepts. I will go into the 3D woven denim jackets that I made to conclude with an evaluation and a conclusion. So before diving into what is a denim jacket, I want to show you a little history of a denim jacket. And this one on the on the left is the so-called first denim jacket, and it was called a triple pleated blouse, and it's a replica by Levi's. And during the last century, there are multiple jackets developed and launched, for example, by Levi's. But as you can maybe see, these shapes and this aesthetic is very similar to what we now know as denim garments, and this is 150 years already ago. And what 150 years of development can look like, I want to show you on the hand of cars. This is a car 150 years ago. And this is what cars look like nowadays. This is 150 years of development. And you see that by a change and development in technology and manufacturing methods, the aesthetic of cars has changed. And this is a recent example of how this also can look. So Tesla released their Cybertruck, which uses stainless steel, and you can see that the stainless steel also gives a new aesthetic. And this is a thought I want you to keep in mind during my presentation. So what is a denim jacket? It's of course made of denim fabric. So it's blue, it's sturdy, it has a boxy fit, it has a collar on it. The connection of the sleeves to your body is kind of curving inwards, following the shape of your body. It has a strong front placket, so it can carry buttons, for example. And in lots of jackets, the front waistline is a bit longer than your back. So this is an overview of the manufacturing process of a denim garment. As Anne already explained already a bit of the cotton process. If another yarn is used, the top line looks very different. But you can see cotton is produced in many steps. Then for the warp yarns, they are dyed with indigo, woven together. The fabric is finished. This is a complex step. Then the fabric can be cut into pattern pieces, sewn together into a garment, which is also finished, can be done in multiple ways. And lastly, there are buttons and labels added, ready to be transported to you. I will now dive into a few of the steps relevant for my project. So denim weaving, I don't know how much you know about this, so I will do a quick intro. Denim is very recognizable by its very blue surface and a more uncolored bottom. And this is done by the interlacement of a blue or indigo dyed warp, which is spun along the machine. And by raising some of the warp yarns, you can insert this uncolored weft yarn. And by changing this interlacement, you weave then fabric. This fabric can then be cut into pattern pieces. In manufacturers, this goes like layers at a time. And these pattern pieces can then be sewn together into, for example, this denim jacket, done by Mohsin. And I had the honor to observe Mohsin making this jacket. And from that observation, I took that it's taking 23 sewing steps to make this jacket if you don't include pockets, buttons, and buttonholes. And if you also take out the construction of waistbands and cuffs and the front placket, it's like 18 sewing steps. I will highlight a few of the polluting aspects. The fashion industry is, as you may know, one of the most polluting industries worldwide. In that whole process that I visualized for earlier, you saw that lots of machines are used, so they use lots and lots of energy, which is very greenhouse gas emission, which releases a lot of greenhouse gas emission. And also during this process, a lot of transportation takes place. And also, Anne already explained, but for 1 kilo of cotton, you use like around 20,000 liters of water. And in this step, and only also in other wet processes, lots of chemicals are used, which, if not dealt with well, can be released in nature and be of harm, of course. And then waste during pattern cutting, it's estimated to make around 10 to 15% of off-cut waste. And also, of course, the overproduction of the fast fashion industry is a big creating of waste. I want to highlight 2 studies. On the left, it's for a pair of jeans, and you can see that the garment production takes up 75% of the CO2 production, and this includes the weaving and the garment production. This study, on the other hand, shows looked at the garment production of a denim jacket, and taking out the weaving, that sewing stage took up the most CO2 production. So the goal of my project was to maintain the emotional and physical durability of a denim jacket while reducing the amount of production steps and reducing the amount of off-cut waste to potentially reduce the pollution of a denim jacket. In my project, 3D weaving was proposed as a goal to reach this reduction of pollution. So what is 3D weaving? Instead of the one layered sheet normally denim is woven in, with 3D weaving we can divide the warp and weft yarns into layers. And so I want you to look at your sample. I think I also have one somewhere. Yes. And you can see that these diagonal lines, they are like a 1-layer weave structure, so you can divide it, but the other parts, they can be divided into multiple layers. And so you can weave those once at a time, or like similarly, like in one go. And this can be done over the whole sheet of fabric in any shape you wish. And this possibility of creating layers opens up the possibility to weave in form. And I hope you can imagine with me what that can mean for the fashion industry. So instead of cutting separate pattern pieces and sewing them together, we can already weave pattern pieces together and therefore reduce the amount of production steps later on, and therefore reduce the amount of pollution maybe needed. So that was the start of my design research, and I started with looking at a constructed denim jacket and looking at how I could flatten this this denim jacket into a flat construction while leaving as much of the jacket attached to each other, so as much as one piece as I could. And I chose to make the main body only out of 2 layers, because you can feel that the more layers you create, the thinner the layers also get to. So to reach that sturdiness of denim, the maximum was 2 layers. And during this flattening, the most difficult part to flatten was actually the armpit. And so these 3 concepts that I developed deal with this armpit area in a different way, and leading to different concepts. And to decide with which concept to continue, I used a weighted decision matrix, which I displayed in this spider diagram. And you can see that on some required criteria they score the same. So for example, the amount of sewing steps or the boxy fit. But overall, concept 3 had the highest score and was the concept I continued with. From this concept, I developed 3 versions to, in multiple stages, discover what the potential of this 3D weaving could be. And before I dive into my concepts, I want to show you how the basic shape of this jacket was constructed. So you can see these panels. This is like the body panel, and they are woven like this. So you can also see them here on the fabric sheets. And where these parts are 2 layer, this is 1 layer. And if you cut along this line, show it better. If you cut open this line, this folds open, and I can show you that this is then your front and the back of like half of your jacket. And for the arms, it's a similar kind of process. This shoulder part, so the upper part of your body, is 1 layer, but where your arm wants to go in, it's 2 layers. And if you cut open your underarm, you can insert your body. And so all these jackets have only 4 pattern pieces actually. So this first version is to make as less sewing step as needed, and to leave all the edges raw to embrace fully the potential of this 3D weaving, but because maybe eventually the fraying could be less of a thing and we wouldn't need that much after finishing to reduce the amount of fraying. And as you can see, this requires 4 sewing steps, and in the layout you can see here it produces quite a lot of offcut waste, but this was due to the machine that we could use at Diamond Denim. Later on I will propose a better layout or proposal. To also have a go at how to do finish all these raw edges from the cuffs and the waistband, for example. I also developed a version where I extended the length of the cuffs to be folded over. I made a double weave construction in the front plackets. The collar was turned, woven as double layered and turned inside out. So this sort of has a similar feel maybe to the denim jacket that we know. And these extra steps also result in more sewing steps. So this requires 9 sewing steps, and also in this construction it's quite wasteful. But that these 2 constructions resulted in a lot of waste led me to this last version, which is almost 0 waste. And I did this by putting the transporting some of the side seams to a bit more to the far end, and move all the pattern pieces into this rectangle. And by overlapping some of the pattern pieces, you can later after my presentation look at the jackets also. This results in a bit more of a busy aesthetic maybe, but only the 2 triangles are so-called waist, but I made them into a label. Then it's 0 waist almost. This is also only 4 sewing steps. It does require a bit more of cutting, but yeah, 0 waist. I want to take you through some of the challenges that I faced. One of the challenges with this 3D weaving was to make it look like denim as we know it. The question can be, how much should it look like denim as we know it? But you can see that the white lines are way more visible. There's a lot of changing in the structure. Some of the pockets are really blue. Another problem was, or another challenge was fraying. This was the first side seam, this is the last side seam. And as you can see, they still tend to fray a bit, but I mean, at least a little less. And further development could lead to maybe almost no fraying. Another challenge was the layout of the loom that we used. So it was a repeat, so we could only design in this part of the loom, and this is then stamped onto the rest. So therefore, this practice was now quite wasteful, but maybe if you have a loom without a repeat, you can have different positionings of the pattern pieces and therefore less offcut waste. So as an evaluation, I talked with some participants, and actually the result was like, it's the same but different. And where it has a fit that is quite recognizable as a denim jacket, and the sleeve connection, so this area, and it has a color which will make it look like a denim jacket, and also this overall blue color have the feel of a denim jacket, but yeah, indeed the appearance makes it a bit different, and also the fraying and the textures, but that was found quite cool, and maybe even makes it look like handmade or raw or workwear. So to conclude, 3D weaving combines the designing of textile and garments, which is very new to what the industry looks like now, and which would also require a lot of change in the industry. And as you can see from my prototypes, a new technology also will lead to a new aesthetic, which will be unfamiliar for a lot of us for some time, but eventually maybe will be better. And I want to end with like the possibilities of this. So if used together with renewable inputs and together with like sustainable finishing techniques, and maybe at local production in the Netherlands, and maybe in a circular economy, how great the potential then maybe is of 3D weaving. I want to invite you later on to look at my samples, to wear maybe the jacket for a while. Please leave them here. I need them. That was my presentation. Thank you.
Well done. So many congratulations on your project. I know it was a long, you know, you did have an amazing mentor as a tutor. You had the infamous Holly. The lady that teaches her is one of the experts of actually like zero waste pattern cutting anyway. So the fact that you've got someone like that mentoring you, of course, a little bit of that went into you. So it's pretty awesome.
I'm now one of the 5 that knows about this
technology.
technology.
It's such a it's obviously do have a look. We're gonna have a break soon, so do have a look. But it's important that you realise jacquard weaving. Now I know if you go to the London Underground, there's chairs that are jacquard, but the repeat is maybe, I don't know, 20 centimeters or something. Mm-hmm. You know, that's quite normal. The machines that she's using, the repeat is nearly 1.5 meters or meter wide. How big is the repeat?
Yeah, the machine is like 120, but the repeat was like 60.
60.
50, 60.
So in other words, as long as you can fit your pattern pieces in a 60 cm, then it's pretty, you just have to be really clever. And remember, she was making jackets that have hardly no side seams, they're twisting round. She's thinking about, you can do this like accordion way of weaving, so you can have many different details, and you open one up and you release it. So it's just really clever pattern cutting, but thinking completely differently to how we've been taught.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, it's still indigo dyed, it's still got the ring, so it still fades, so it's classed as denim. It is denim, but it's done on a jacquard weave. It's unbelievable. So, you know, and I really wanted you to see it, because, okay, do we have access to this? Probably not. But the thing is, it's important to know this is coming. It's not a trend, it's something that's really clever. Because I'm designing patterns with no waste, she's designing 3D woven patterns with no waste. So it's a completely different thing. So it's pretty inspiring what you've achieved. And her collection will be at the Kingpin show in Amsterdam in like April.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you many more people are going to do it. So yeah, but you're one of the first. So
Yeah.
many congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Do have a look, guys. We'll have a short break.
And if you have questions, please.
Yeah, oh cool.
come and
Questions.
ask.
Anyone's got questions before we leave, before we have break time? Yes. Please speak really loud.
Too impressed.
Any question? Go on, guys. Goodness me. Any questions? Technical questions? Yes.
How did you decide on your methodology of working out? Because when you had all the steps,
Yeah.
it seemed really like clear and precise. How did you figure out that was the best way to process it?
I was just going to repeat it for the camera. How did you figure out the best way, right?
Yeah, the best way of my design process even.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, so I'm taught in product design, so maybe it's the core of that faculty, and the courses are more design process based also.
Yeah.
But for me the start was really what's the technology and what's the garment that I'm aiming for. And so I took the qualities of that denim jacket that I wanted to reach, and I had a technology, and that was my start of the design process. And I had 6 months, so there was a time limit in these are my concepts. I choose the best based on criteria that you can make up from your research into technology, the garment that you're aiming for, the sustainability goals that you're reaching. And from these concepts, then you go into development of how can I make it better. And I had the chance to go to Pakistan for a week and prototype there. So if I wouldn't have been there, these products wouldn't have been here in these finalized stage. But I hope that helps a bit in explanation.
She first of all understood how these garments are made now. That's the first
Yeah.
thing. You figure out how they're doing it now, then she figured out processes to try and make it simpler in the method that she's about to do.
Yeah.
That's what it is, understanding links really, and you were trying to find links of how can I make it all one pattern that doesn't, you know, how can I reduce first of all the patterns so it's still essence, still a jacket.
Yeah.
But there's certain things you need, like you need a collar and you need to still a circular shape, but how can you do it in a zero waste? And obviously, if you do any kind of zero waste, you know, like a kimono garment is a zero waste garment. So you don't necessarily have to have a curve, you can have a straight edge to do it. So,
but that's also what you can see from these concepts, that I also choose this concept because it had the most arm-fitted construction here. Like this jacket also fitted a lot of the things, but you see that here the fabric hoped up a little more. This construction was very difficult by putting this rectangular thing inside your arm. So it was really that criteria that help you choose for what you're aiming for.
yeah. Actually, you get a lot of product development, even lots of architects designing fashion now who've got links. So it's something that, you know, did you think you'd be doing fashion garments for your MA?
I hoped so.
You hoped so,
For
okay.
a long time at my faculty, there was no fashion someone.
Right.
So meeting Holly was, something I wished for 8 years ago.
Yes, Maria, please speak
What
loud.
do you see yourself doing next in your career? Will it be more technology-based, working, you know, with mills or fashion? Would you see yourself more as designer or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm still trying to position also myself, but I now name myself like an industrial fashion designer. I'm looking for that area between fashion design. I don't want to just make clothes to add more clothes to this world. I want to product design garments that have this function or that we need, or improve the quality of making, or more sustainable, or maybe it's a spacesuit that needs to meet certain qualities to fit context, or it's, for example, we want to make it more sustainable. How can we do it with this new technology? Yeah, somewhere there in between. I'm still looking for what it is.
So could you take this technique to other mills and companies, or is it specifically diamond that
No,
works?
you need a jacquard weaving loom with a cotton. It's more common for other yarns. It's a machine that mostly weaves like this thin, beautiful weave structures. So a jacquard loom specifically made or used for cotton is quite rare. But if you have that, you need someone like I'm a designer and not a weave specialist, so I had a weave specialist designing the weave structures with me and for me, because that's another step I need to learn. So.
There's only a handful of people that I can count them on one hand who have this kind of technology, and some of them they're not thinking about denim and thinking about other things. So the fact that you can put indigo warp, it's very complicated. That not many people do it. But if they do it, it's a small repeat, not the big repeat. Yeah. So when these guys were inquiring about it, they asked me to help them find a partner mill, and I asked all of them that I know, all of them, and only 2 came back, and one of them met their sort of requirement. So probably only one in the world that has this loom that can do a repeat that big.
Like the goal is to have a loom without a repeat, but that's rare. Cotton and no repeat.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Any questions, guys, before we have our break? Any questions? So Joanne, how long is our break? Quite short, right?
15.
15 minutes. So please come back. Don't go home. We've got still a couple more things going on. We're going to keep a log of you guys. So please
have a look close by.
And have a look at these clothes. Have a look. Have a feel of them.
And so, like for your sleeve, so it's woven like one.
It's like an accordion.
So this is
the trousers have already been done.
Yeah.
So that.
It's very hard to explain.
You can take it
Front, back.
So I divided the jacket into front and back
woven in
yoke,
one piece.
and then
That's not stitched together. And also, she's done a jacket. How many sewing?
Is this 4 sewings? That's 1 loop.
That's just one. And for the edges, you said you had to change the fraying bit.
Yeah.
It's just by changing the weave,
structure.
Then it's cut and it's in the with an angle.
It's really a
that
binding thing, which I'm not an expert in, but Lou is very fond of.
It's also cool that this area is probably gonna get used more, and you have the thickest part here. That's also like.
And eventually you can also have maybe like weave on, so on some parts you can weave extra, so maybe here. But that's like submanufacture. I don't know.
Yeah. It's almost the same. Oh yeah, but then you need to have a triple layer more or less.
Or like an added
But
part.
if you were saying if you have a triple layer, then that would be thinner because
here, this is for example 1/4, and it's translucent. But it's also the thickness of the machine. So we had a machine with quite a low.
How many cutting processes was there? Because you tried to dissect it, it was hardly was it like
Diamond
also, but how many times did you have to cut into it to make the full jacket? Like sewing.
It's like 1, 2, 3, 4.
So just
but like and cutting it out.